Hi, my name's Corrin and I was diagnosed with high-grade non-Hodgkin lymphoma. I was quite tired, but I just put that down to getting older and working full-time, looking after the kids. I had some indigestion, pain in my tummy, and it got to a point where I couldn't lie on my front very comfortably, so I decided I should probably go and see my GP at that point. He said I needed to go straight to the hospital and probably take an overnight bag with me because my spleen was enlarged, and he wanted me to have some scans and a blood test quite urgently to find out what that was. That was the first time that anyone had said the word lymphoma to me, and my GP said it looks like from your CT that the most likely cause is lymphoma, and I don't think I'd even heard the word before, or if I had, I didn't know what it meant. So she then explained that that was a type of blood cancer, which, as you can imagine, was a bit of a shock. Because it was high grade and aggressive and fast growing, that didn't necessarily mean that it was a bad thing, because the high grade lymphomas are quite receptive to chemo, and so in many cases can be cured. And if they're not cured, then you can still get put into quite a long remission. So that was quite positive. Well, I had my interim diagnosis of diffuse large B-cell high-grade non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and they talked to me a little bit about treatment options, assuming that was going to be the outcome. And I was basically told there were two options for me. I could have the standard or the gold standard treatment, which was R-CHOP, or I could have be part of a clinical trial. We had a meeting with the whole family and decided really to go for it, hit this thing with the biggest hammer we could and go for the trial. And when we spoke to the doctor, he said he was really pleased we'd made that decision because he thought it was the right one for us. And I think I went in probably the next day. And so that was 4 weeks after my first GP appointment. I was in hospital and about to start my chemo. I had the Lymphoma Association book on high-grade non-Hodgkin lymphoma given to me in a pack of information from the hospital, and I found it really helpful. I left it for the rest of the family to read as well, and together we found out more about what was happening to me, and it was particularly helpful in talking to my children and explaining to them what was going on. And I know that they looked at it when I was having treatment and I was in hospital, and it was there for them to refer to and to sort of reassure them, really. Normally, I'm the kind of person that wants to know everything, but in this case, I think I was quite scared. Although I perhaps outwardly didn't seem scared, I was worried about the reality of my disease, and I found it very hard to find out information about it. And then when I was going through treatment, which was quite intense for me, I was too poorly to do anything more than just have my treatment. So it was only afterwards, when treatment started to come to an end and I started to feel a lot better, that I became very, very curious about understanding exactly what the disease was and what had happened to me. And then I found the information in the Lymphoma Association booklet really, really interesting. It was just very clear and very comprehensive, and I knew that it was trustworthy because it was coming from the experts rather than information that I might pick up, say, on the internet, and I wasn't sure where that was from. I had absolutely nothing but praise for the whole of the team that treated me. The clinical nurse specialists were amazingly supportive and continue to be, now. Obviously I still see my doctor from time to time, and I still see the clinical nurse specialist, and they really are amazing. Really, they helped me get through what was not a pleasant experience at times. They were there to support me and to support the family as well. It's no picnic, and lots of people have different experiences. So some people go through it without any side effects. I had a lot of sickness and vomiting, but I don't think that's the same for everybody. I knew it was going to be tricky, and when I went into it, I was warned it was going to be difficult. But the hardest part was probably being in hospital and away from my family rather than actually having the treatment. And it was different from some people's treatment because I had chemo every day rather than coming in and having chemo once, in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. So it was the kind of duration that was tricky, and it meant that the side effects were stronger, and that's why I was in hospital, so that the nurses could keep an eye on me and make sure that I was okay and well throughout the treatment rather than being at home. It was a shock to the system how strong it was and how it made me feel, but ultimately it got me into remission, so that was the main thing. Really, the whole lymphoma journey for me was like in three halves, really. The first part, the kind of diagnosis, which was incredibly scary and unknown, was just the tip of the iceberg. And then the chemo itself, which was physically difficult, was relatively short. And then the biggest bit is actually recovery from treatment and the kind of life after treatment, and obviously being really happy to be well, but realising that my body had changed a bit as a consequence of having the chemo. So, I really focused hard on getting myself back into shape. I think it was a really positive experience. At the time, people thought I was crazy for thinking that, but I mean, it brought our family closer together. It made me really appreciate just how many amazing friends we have. I think it helped me to take life a bit less seriously and to not get so stressed about things. I think on the one hand, I found it difficult to plan early on because I didn't know what was around the corner. But now I think I'm a bit more of a risk taker. And generally in life, I think you've got to do what you can because nobody knows what's around the corner. If you're having a horrible day, then probably the next day will be better.